Want to know what the movers and shakers of New Hampshire's performing arts are thinking? Welcome to New Hampshire Unscripted with your host, Ray Dudley.
Did you get your coffee?
I'm not a coffee drinker.
Oh,
I'm
that's
good.
right. You told me that.
Yeah, I'm just going to go with, I'm ready whenever you are.
It's painless, I promise.
I know. You know what I was thinking, though? I was thinking this is probably what my clients go through when they get in front of my camera.
Good point.
Because so many of them are like, I'm not photogenic, I'm not this, I'm not that. And so now it's like, okay, I'm getting a little bit of my own medicine.
Good. Well,
Yeah.
First of all, let me start with the obligatory. How are you guys doing over there?
We're doing okay. Yeah, I mean, this crazy thing doesn't seem that different for me.
Yeah.
You know, I'm only used to going out once in a while, and then I'm home most of the time. And Don is still working, but courts have suspended everything except emergency hearings. So he's pretty much standing around all day doing nothing.
That could be good for the criminals.
Right? Which is not good for us. But
No good.
yeah, so we're good. My parents are in Florida, so I'm hoping there's, I think they're okay. And
Yeah. You stay in touch with them?
yeah, like we call every other day, and my mom emails pretty frequently. And yeah, so I said, at least you can get outside. Like,
Yeah.
it's so nice, and you can walk around. And now we have
Not like
snow.
here.
No, not today. So
Okay.
how are you? You're
I'm
doing
good.
okay?
Oh yeah, we're fine. We're hunkered down in the bunker. So I avoided the stores as much as I could early on. I wanted to talk to you because photography is really an integral part of the arts.
Mm-hmm.
And it doesn't probably get the exposure that
I see what you did there.
that it probably needs, because it's a background kind of thing. And yet in theater and film, photos are very important, headshots and whatever else we need. So I thought maybe you could enlighten us, give us an overview of how long you've been doing photography, and then I'll get into some deeper questions.
Sure. I've been doing photography full-time. This is my 5th year. Part-time, it's probably been closer to 12 for money. And then before that, I was always the kid in high school that had the camera. I can't even tell you how many 4x6 prints I have in my attic from 8th grade through college and beyond. I just always liked taking pictures, capturing moments. I loved looking at photos as a kid. I just had an appreciation for the lighting or the scenery or the composition, whatever. So I don't know. It's been kind of a lifelong thing.
Are you one of those folks who prefers maybe black and white, the noir look over color, or where do you fall on that?
That's a great question. I do love black and white. I think my mom growing up, when she did in the 50s, loved all the movie stars from the 30s and 40s and all those gorgeous black and white images that they would do of movie stars back then. That's always been one of my favorites. There's certain things that black and white doesn't capture, and sometimes you need color, but then there are times when an image, you need to strip the color away to get rid of the distraction and just kind of draw your eye more into the image. I don't know if that makes sense, but I don't know. But yeah, I go both ways. It just depends.
Yeah.
Depends on what the purpose of the image is and what the image is.
Do you have artists that you follow, old like Ansel Adams, and then current folks that you follow their pages, or you love to go out and just look at their photos?
Yeah, when I first started doing photography for reels, and people would pay me, there were so many photographers doing blogs and posting all their images, and I would just follow. There were wedding photographers and there were portrait photographers, and I can't tell you how many blogs I would read on a daily basis. Just loved their imagery, loved their work. One guy that I actually took a course with, a workshop with, he lives right on the New Jersey, Pennsylvania line. His name is Cliff Motner. He started as a photojournalist, really probably in his 20s. and then evolved into a wedding photographer. And his images have always just, I don't know. I love his images. I love the lighting. He's really good with lighting and composition. And so he's one guy, not a household name like Ansel Adams, but he's one guy that I really, really have always admired his work. But there are so many, going back to Irving Penn and Richard Avedon. There's so many great photographers.
Yeah. Don't feel bad about geeking out. It's okay.
No, I'm not. I just, there's so many, there's just so many. So.
Were you someone who couldn't wait to get like the latest Time magazine or National Geographic to look at those shots that?
Yeah. So my grandparents lived across the street from me growing up. So they always had National Geographic on the coffee table, and I could sit and entertain. I was an only child. So, I just sit there and entertain myself by looking at that. And then, as I got older, like a teenager, I was always buying, I loved Vogue magazine. The images in Vogue were always so beautiful, and Vanity Fair. I guess those were probably the two biggest ones. And still, even today, Vanity Fair, Annie Leibovitz, there we go. Couldn't think of her name. Great imagery, just great portraiture, great lighting, great, I don't know. She just really captures her subjects really well.
It's an amazing amount of work that goes into getting a really, really great photo. I mean,
yes.
A lot of us just don't, we have our iPhones and we click and, but there's so much more that goes into that. When you look at like billboards or magazines, newspapers, and you see a photo, are you, because of you're in the industry, are you consciously looking at things that the normal person would not, shadows or positions or what type of lens they may have been using?
Yeah, I think so. I don't think the average person would notice, oh, that was a really wide angle lens and that was an odd choice for a portrait. Or they've got this shadow that they didn't Photoshop out, or they look too Photoshopped, or I think my eye is a little more critical than the average person.
Yeah. Does it bother you? Is it not bother, but has it destroyed looking at pictures or things that?
In some ways, because now it's hard to know what is real.
Great point.
What was captured versus what was created after the fact. So that in some ways is a little disturbing, and I try to be very conscious of that when I retouch images, especially for headshots, because I think for acting headshots, at least, because I think people need to look like them, and a casting agent or a director wants to know what they look like for real, and what they're going to have to work with, instead of they were so airbrushed that you thought they could have played a character in their 30s and really maybe they should play the maid in their 60s. So,
It's a very good point. Very valid.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of people, maybe younger people who are just kind of entering the industry, really need to know that. That's hugely important. Well, and us older folks too, because we want to look younger.
Sure.
But it's really important that you look like your photo when you walk in. I was told by John Campanello that after the audition, you still need to look like what you looked like in the audition. Don't go getting your hair cut or growing a beard or something, because if you land the job, that's what they wanted to see.
Right. That's what they're expecting.
Right.
So it's hard in that regard for models and actors to change their look. It's something I like changing things up every now and then. I change my hair, my color of my hair, whatever, cut it, let it grow. But yeah, you kind of have to find a standard look. And then if that's what I think that's probably more true in commercials and print work, because theater and film, probably you can do wigs, you can alter your appearance more, and it's more accepted because it's theater.
Right.
It's, I don't know how to explain it, but it just, I think it's more accepted because it's a theatrical thing.
Yeah. Your headshot that's out in the foyer can look different than you are on stage.
Sure. Absolutely.
The audience will buy into that.
Yeah. I've looked at headshots, I've gone to shows and I've looked at headshots and thought, oh my God, what a transformation from their headshot to the character they played. And wow.
Do you find yourself, is there a niche in photography that you prefer? I don't know how many there are. That's why I have you on. So there's
A lot.
headshots, there's stills, there's I don't know what else. But have you migrated into one area over another?
I have. Like I said, when I first started, probably like around 2006 was, I think, when I got my first digital camera. Before that, it was all film. But that's when photography started to make sense to me because I'm a very visual person in photography, so that makes sense. But with film, taking images 24, 36 at a time, sending them off, getting them back, and then trying to figure out why is this blurry or why is this not bright enough or whatever. Whereas fast forward to digital, you take a shot and you immediately see it on the back of the camera and you say, whoa, my shutter speed's way off, or whoa, my aperture's wide open, I gotta shut it down, or you can make those adjustments. So the learning curve for me was it got so much easier. So back then, I just wanted to take pictures of anything. I didn't care what it was. It could be a still life, it could be a dog, it could be a baby, it could be people, it could be scenery. I just loved capturing images. And so that's how I started. I've done weddings, I've done babies, I've done high school seniors, I've done families, I've dabbled with some stock photography, but I really have now tapered down to headshots. I will still shoot families. I still do a couple of weddings for friends or people that I know, but I don't want to make my living as a wedding photographer. I really don't. It's so much work. It's, every weekend, and then you spend your whole week editing images, thousands of images, and people don't realize that. There's a lot of work that goes into that, not to mention 8 or 9 hours on your feet, and I'm not getting any younger. So I really like headshots. I really like working one-to-one with a subject and directing them and getting them to try to find their best angle, find the best lighting. So yeah, really headshots is kind of my thing.
I'm glad you brought up the difference between digital and film, because you can imagine, well, maybe most folks nowadays can't imagine, but
right.
You would have to wait for film to get exposed if you weren't doing it yourself. It could take days to come back, even in the days of the booth where you drop it off and
Right.
you got to wait 24 or 36 hours to get that back. And then by then, the whole shot could have been ruined.
Right.
How would you redo it, right? And there's cost involved in that. Digital, there's no waste. You just look and it's all ones and zeros. You don't like it, you delete it. There's no lost film. There's no lost time.
It is. And I think, in a way it's sad that this, new generation doesn't have that appreciation. And I think, every now and then I've gone back to film, doing some film shooting.
Yeah.
And it really makes me slow down. Like you don't realize how quick you are with digital. Like you just snap. And then, okay, well, one of them will be good. And it's nice to go back to film and just remembering you've got to compose the shot. You've got to look at everything in the shot, make sure there's no extraneous distracting elements, stuff like that. And really what I like to say is it's the difference between taking a picture and making a picture. Like anybody can take a picture. You just push a button on your phone, on your camera, whatever. But making a photo and really creating it to your vision, I guess, is something else altogether. So
that answers the question. I was going to ask you, what would make you go back to film? What would drive you to say, you know what, today I'm going to take out my Kodachrome or whatever the heck?
Yeah, I just to slow down and just to remember how to create and make an image as opposed to just push a button and say, yeah, that's good. That's what I had in mind.
Okay.
Yeah.
So let's geek out for a minute.
Okay.
Talk about equipment.
Oh boy.
What do you have for cameras?
So way back when I got my first film SLR, I had a Pentax. And then my first digital was also a Pentax because it didn't make sense for me to buy another camera and all these different lenses when I had the lenses from my film camera that would work on the Pentax digital. then I started taking classes at the New Hampshire Institute of Art, which is now part of New England College here in Manchester. And then I eventually switched over to Nikon. No real reason. Nikon and Canon were kind of the two go-to brands at the time. And I don't know. I
Paul Simon sings about them. So
yes, of course. So I just, grabbed a Nikon and said, yeah, this works. And so I transitioned, over to Nikon. And I had a couple different models, as they improved, I would kind of trade up. And now I've kind of simplified a little bit. I have one Nikon. I have a couple Nikon lenses. And then I went to a Sony, which is a mirrorless camera, and a couple of reasons. The stability control is a little bit better. If I'm shooting in low light and I need to lower my shutter speed, there's more chance that I could, have a little shakiness or something. So it helps with that. It's a little lighter than the Nikon body, and I liked it. So that's what I'm using now, is a Sony A7 III and a couple different lenses, but I still have my Nikon for backup or for doing certain things.
what about for film? When you go to film, what do you use?
So film, I still have my old Pentax and a couple lenses. I have a Yashica, which is a
Falls right off the tongue.
I know, yeah, Yashica. It's a twin lens reflex camera. So it has two lenses on the front, and you look down into the top of the camera to see what's in front of you. So, and it comes out in a square format, like an Instagram format, not like a 4x6. So that I've played with. I bought it at an antique store for like $60. I didn't know if it would even work, but lo and behold, it did. So I'm thrilled. And so that's something that I pull out every now and then and play with.
Where do you get your film from?
Right? So you can't go to the drugstore anymore.
Right.
Film. So there are places online like B&H Photo in New York, and they'll ship wherever. And then the trickier part is where to have it developed, because, like, who does that? And I don't have a darkroom, and I've done darkroom work. It's a lot of work. You have to buy all the chemicals, and you've got to, it's a lot of steps. So there's labs out there. You just got to look online, film developing. So there's a couple labs in California that I've used. So.
That would be agonizing.
I know, right? Not to mention you have to wait. You're like, oh my God, I want to see these pictures. It's, going back to the ancient times.
I know, we're such an instant society.
We are.
If somebody, we'll get into headshots here in just a minute.
Yeah.
It's really kind of what I want to talk about. But if somebody was wanting to get into photography, what would you recommend for them as an entry-level type of camera nowadays?
Gosh, there's so many good ones. That's the thing. You can pick up really any Nikon or a Canon will have entry-level camera bodies and lenses. And I've seen some people do amazing things. Everybody's like, oh, I've got to have the most expensive camera, and I've got to have the best glass, and I've seen people shoot stuff with their iPhones. I had one young girl, she contacted me and she wanted to just meet me and show me some of her work. And I was like, awesome, that's fun. I'd love to look at some of your stuff. And she brought in, some things were printed, and then other things she showed me on her laptop or her tablet or something. Most of them were shot with her phone. Blew me away. So it's not the equipment. It really, obviously better equipment will allow you some luxuries in what you can and can't do. It's really the person behind the camera.
You recommend that they take any classes? Would that help? Or just go out and shoot?
Just go out and shoot. I think so many people get wrapped up in taking classes and, taking workshops, and they're fantastic. I think there are some really great online classes with YouTube. There's a website called Creative Live, and they have a lot of photography classes. I've watched a lot of their videos and classes. But really the best thing that's going to get you getting better is shooting, and just shooting and shooting, and then looking at your work, having other people look at your work and point out things that they would do differently, or, technique wise or composition wise. And just, they say your first 10,000 shots are crap. I would say my
10,000?
Yeah. Well, think about how many, that's
I
like
quit.
that's 5 weddings, Ray. I mean, that's, I don't know. I have 8,000 images on my iPhone. So 10,000 is not a lot these days.
Okay.
But
Can't imagine 10,000 anything.
I know. So yeah, the more you shoot, the better you're going to get.
Okay.
So yeah.
Sticking with geeking out,
Mm-hmm.
what software are you using for editing?
Yeah, I'm pretty much an Adobe girl. I use what's called Adobe Lightroom to bring in my photos into the computer and do basic editing like exposure, contrast, sharpness, color balance, that sort of thing. And then when I need to retouch, I bring it into Photoshop. And I use a tablet. So I have a Wacom, I don't know how to pronounce it, but anyway, it's a tablet, you have a pen, so it's like drawing as opposed to using your mouse. So you've got a little bit more fine motor control over doing small details and that sort of thing. So that's what I do when I want to retouch facial features, hair, blemishes, wrinkles.
Make fat guys like me look skinny.
Yeah, I tell my clients this all the time because they're all, we all want to look younger and skinnier, right?
Yeah.
So I say, don't worry, I have this tool in Photoshop and it's called Liquify. And the women go, ooh, Liquify, okay. And it basically,
Wait, is this true?
I swear to God, this is true. Ask anyone.
I thought it was a joke.
No, it's called Liquify, and it's limited, but you can get creative and you can thin faces, you can elongate jaw. It's kind of crazy, and probably
you're killing me.
No, it's true. So that's my reassurance for people is I have Liquify, and we can smooth you out and slim you down. But getting back to that whole thing, I take a really conservative approach when I do retouching, even for other clients that aren't actors that want to look, pretty. I have a really hard time over retouching people.
Yeah.
It's so, I don't want them to look like a plastic Barbie doll.
Yeah.
But I've had a few clients that have insisted, and so I've done it because they're the client, but it just makes me sad.
I have 3 programs: Skinify, Hairify, and Youngify.
I'm going to talk to you about some of those. That sounds good.
So how about, because some of these programs get expensive.
Oh, yeah.
And if you're just entering the market, you're always looking for a cheaper alternative, not looking for you to sponsor anything, but are there cheaper options out there, freer versions of some stuff, or just do they need to bite the bullet?
Yeah, I don't know, to be honest, because I've used what I've used for so long. I mean, the Adobe, I have a subscription. Like I didn't buy the software and install it on my computer. Now it's a subscription model. You use it online. And I only pay $9.99 a month for both Lightroom and Photoshop.
That's cheap.
So yeah, I mean, when you think about it, and if those are really the 2 tools, those are really the 2 that I use on a regular basis. So $10 a month, that's not bad. So I'm sure there are other things out there. I know there's, even stuff on people's phones that people use to do retouching, and I've never tried any of that stuff, so I can't speak to it. I don't know how much it is. Yeah. So, but I would just encourage people, really, you need Lightroom and you need Photoshop for photos.
Well, $10 a month. You can pick up cans along the road each month.
Exactly. Right. So yeah. So that's not too bad.
How about lighting? What do you have for lighting?
So when I was at New Hampshire Institute of Art, they used these lights they have the craziest name. They were called Alien Bees, and they're just pretty inexpensive studio lights. I have 3 of them. And then I have different light modifiers like soft boxes, umbrellas, depending on what type of light or what situation, am I shooting 1 person or am I shooting 10 people, so that's it. Pretty simple.
Okay, cool. Thanks. So moving on to headshots. Do you have a studio in your house, or where do you go to shoot?
No, so I have a studio right downtown in Manchester. It's in the building directly across from the Palace Theater, which is kind of a nice
That is
location.
nice.
Yeah. So, and I've been there. This is it's been like 4.5 years. And I've had a couple different spaces in the building, and now I'm in my smallest space because, again, like I was saying earlier, I've really realized that what I like best is shooting individuals, which means mostly headshots. So I don't need a huge space. So I have a very long, narrow space, and it has one window that faces north, and I do use natural light quite a bit. Sometimes I'll use studio lights, and again, depending on what the client wants for an image. Like if you're like a banker, lawyer, some really like uber professional, I'll tend to use the typical studio light setup so that it looks very crisp and very professional. But if it's a more relaxed or creative profession, I'll put them not in front of the window, but I'll put them near the window and shoot that way. It's a softer light. It's a little different look, a little more contemporary looking.
Yeah.
And some people prefer that. So.
Yeah. Before we go on too far, and I'll ask you again at the end, but you want to give a plug? How can people reach you?
Oh, you're sweet. So janebuttonphotography.com. And I have a website. You can look at images. People can schedule their own appointments right on my website, which has been a godsend. I've had that in place for a couple of years, and it's great. People can look at my schedule, find a time that works for them. They can pick the length of the session. Do they want a half-hour session, a 1-hour session, a 90-minute session? Do they want to come in? I offer a pre-session consultation, either by phone or I'll meet with them in person, because I think it's really important to go over things like wardrobe and hair, and do you wear glasses? Are you going to wear them for the photo, makeup, that sort of thing. And then people can meet me, and not everybody, you don't click with everybody. So I want people to meet me because they've got to feel comfortable in front of me.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
And of course, you can now Photoshop out the face masks and rubber gloves, right? So.
Yeah, those are kind of tricky. I've been fighting with those. Liquify doesn't cover that, but
yeah, my stuff does. So let's get into a little bit more headshot stuff. Discuss a couple of things for me. The importance of a good headshot and why they cost so much.
Wow, good question. So if you're an actor, what's your product?
Yourself.
And so your job is to represent yourself to directors, casting, modeling agencies, whoever you're working with, in the very best light possible, no pun intended. So, why wouldn't it be important, and why wouldn't you make an investment with somebody that is going to give you a quality image or images?
Well, why can't my grandma take my picture and I just put it up?
Well, she probably could, because anybody can take a photo these days, right? We talked about that. But there are things like angles, lighting, quality of the photo. I'm going to tell you a really quick story. Still baffles me to this day. I had a professional woman, older woman, probably in her late 60s, but very attractive. She came in and met with me. We discussed wardrobe. What are you going to do with your hair? What do you makeup, that sort of thing. She left, I thought, feeling really comfortable. She came back for her session. She did not bring the clothing that we discussed would look good. She brought some other options, which was fine. Sat down, used natural lighting. I thought it looked very flattering. It looked very nice. Took some really nice images of her and sent her the gallery of her proofs. She emailed me back the next day and said, "I'm really sorry. It's nothing about anything you did, but I'm just not crazy about the photos. And this is the photo I've decided I'm going to use for my website." She sent me a selfie
Of course.
horrible lighting. She had raccoon eyes from the lighting coming down. She had raccoon eyes, shadows under her eyes.
Tough to get good lighting in your bathroom.
The image was blurry. It was not good quality. And this is a woman, a professional woman. And I still go, But what it taught me was that our perception of what we look like and how we want to portray ourselves can be so different from somebody else's. So I've kind of learned as a photographer that just because I think a shot of you is fabulous and great doesn't necessarily mean it's going to sit well with you. I don't know. It still... I just shake my head every time I think about it.
Can you just briefly touch on why they're so expensive? And I don't mean to put you into a corner here, but your time is valuable as well. But you know, they can be very expensive to have headshot. You go to Boston, you're paying $500 maybe for a session. For an out of work actor, that seems like a lot of money. But can you just briefly touch on really what the importance of that?
Yeah, I think, you know, photography in general, and, you know, people in the wedding industry run into the same thing because they're like, why are you charging like thousands of dollars to shoot a wedding, when they don't realize that there's a lot of prep work. And so I won't talk about weddings, we'll focus on headshots, but I'm doing a pre-consult with my clients and I don't charge for that. So that's something that's half of my time that I'm giving you to help you better prepare for your headshot and help you look your best so that I can know how to photograph you better or give my advice on what will work and not work. Then, you know, there's the session, which I offer half hour, hour, an hour and a half. And then depending on which session you go with, half hour session gets 2 touched images, 1 session gets 4, and a 9-minute session gets 6. So especially for an actor, you can pick a wide range of expression, of different outfits, lighting. So, you know, if you're going for a comedic role, maybe you want to send them the kind of lighthearted photo, not the dark, broody, like creepy guy. So there's that. And then after the fact, after the session, I probably spend about half an hour uploading the images, kind of getting them ready to send to you as a proof. Then you look at them and say, okay, these are the 2 or 6 that I want retouched. And good retouch per image is probably anywhere from minutes for somebody that just doesn't need a lot of retouching to 20, 25 minutes per image. So, you know, that then becomes more like 3 hours of time, depending on if they meet with you first, what you do afterwards. And then it's just overhead. Yes, you know, I have rent for my studio. I've invested a lot of money in equipment. I've invested a lot of time in education. Oh, yeah,
I agree. I just wanted to get it out there because I know a lot of people have a problem with it. And
and I get it. I do. I totally get it. Again, it's looking at the self of you, the bad circles and the shadows. You know, you're going to give that to a casting agent, or you're going to give them a great well-lit shot that shows off your features really well. Background isn't distracting.
So what does a session look like? Someone, they say, okay, you and I are going to sit down and you're going to do my headshots. What can somebody expect in that half hour or hour and a half?
Yeah, so like I said, I really like to either talk with people on the phone or sit down with them beforehand, because then we can get a lot of things answered for you and for me. So that to me is why I do it, and that's why I don't charge for it, because I really feel strongly that it's important to talk about, okay, hair, makeup, what's going to look good, what's not going to look good, what's, you know, sometimes too much makeup is really hard to retouch. It would be better if they didn't wear a ton of makeup and I just had blemishes. So much easier to retouch that than really heavily caked on makeup and stuff. Wardrobe.
Okay. Is that pre-session? Is that done by phone or is that in person?
Either way.
Okay.
They can come to my studio, or I can talk on the phone with them, or FaceTime, you know, whatever works best for them. But yeah, I just feel like that half hour just really maximizes the potential of getting a really good headshot.
Okay.
As opposed to walking in off the street, wearing one outfit that maybe isn't very flattering for whatever reason, color, style, neckline, you have it, you name it. And yeah, so I just really feel strongly about that. So then if we do that, the half hour session is, all right, we got 3 or 4 outfits planned. We're going to do some inside. Then we're going to go take a walk outside around my studio area, do some shots, and it's so much more efficient. You know, I try to, when I shoot inside, I just shoot with a plain backdrop. Most of the time I will use natural lighting for actors. Sometimes I'll use the studio lights. And then I like to shoot people outside, and I shoot people outside with a really long lens because it blurs the backdrop a lot, and it also creates what's called compression. So it looks like the backdrop is right up behind the person when in effect it could be like 60, 70 feet away. But I like the look of that. And compression is also a little, especially people with very strong facial features like longer noses or prominent chins or whatever, it compresses your face. So like, you know, wide angle shot, you know, my face, my nose, everything's going to look wider, but the more I sit back, it's going to kind of flatten out the plane of my face. And it's usually more flattering for most people. So that's kind of how I tackle it. And I like to just give people a wide range of, you know, let's do 3 or 4 outfits. Let's do, you know, inside, let's do outside, so that they really have a good variety of shots. Do some smiling. Let's do some brooding, let's do some confused, whatever, you know, like be an actor, use your face, you know. That's part of it too. I wanted to mention, I'm taking the photo, but play a role in this too. You've got to give me something to work with, you know. You've got to bring the expression, you've got to bring some personality. If you just kind of sit back and let me take your photo, as opposed to kind of engaging and like giving me some intensity with your eyes, like there's such a difference. And I don't know, some people don't grasp that.
What is the industry looking for nowadays? The black and whites or the colors?
I see a lot of color. When I look at New York and Boston photographers, headshot photographers, every once in a while I'll just Google that just to see what's on trend. It's mostly color these days. I think the old kind of traditional black and white is not as common. Some people I'll still, you know, it's the click of a mouse to change an image from color to black and white. So it's a piece of cake. And some people request them. And black and white does make the skin tone look nice and creamy, and it kind of can hide some flaws. But yeah, I think the color is kind of the more trendy, more contemporary way.
So then it becomes very important for their wardrobe if you're doing color.
Absolutely.
And why?
Because color and wardrobe matters, and it's a headshot. So I mean, this is your frame right here. So I look horrible in really round necklines, and it makes my face look really round. So I'm wearing kind of this nice little V-neck so that my round face has like some contrast. It has like angular things to contrast with it. So that's important. Color is important. You know, you want to look your best. And I feel like a lot of people don't know what works and what doesn't work. And again, going back to it, that's why I try to meet with them. And I say, bring clothes with you, bring tops with you so we can look at this. And, you know, keep your necklines simple, because again, if this is your frame, you don't want this big ruffly clown blouse on that's gonna, you know, it's all about your face. It's a headshot. It's about your face. So you don't want all this distraction going on.
Headshots are so important. I mean, it's amazing to me. We just kind of toss them around and we don't think much about them, but they're your calling card, basically.
You just took the words out of my mouth, right? I was just gonna say that.
And I'm asking for a friend here, but you know, let's say you knew someone who had like a Charlie Brown basketball head.
Interesting. Go on.
It's very important how they're framed and the colors that go into it. Wouldn't you agree?
Sure. And then for people like him, there's also the consideration of lighting and of angle. And I mean, some things are God-given, and we just, you know, we can't change it as much as we'd like to.
And we hate God for that.
And sometimes we hate God, but just kidding. We just wonder what he was thinking that day. So yeah, you know, that's, again, it's about angles and playing with angles and, you know, okay, is this side better or is this side better? Or do I look better with my chin up or my chin down? It's really just experimentation.
How do you photograph someone who's beautiful on the inside as opposed to the outside? That's not a real question.
It's not a real question? No, I was going to answer it.
Feel free, but
I don't know. I think the key is the eyes, and the eyes have to have some life to them, because when you look at a photo, what's the first of a person, what's the first thing you look at? It's their eyes.
Exactly right.
Look at eyes. That's how we connect with people. So if the eyes are just kind of dead and you're looking, like that, does that draw you into a photo? No. You might wonder, what the hell were they thinking? But if you get somebody that's got a little intensity, and they can give you a look and they can kind of draw you in, no matter what they look like, they're going to pique your interest because there's some life in their eyes and in their expression. So I think that would be my answer to people that aren't as blessed in the looks department.
Are some people just naturally more photogenic?
Sure, I think so. Yeah, but I can't tell you, I think every client that comes in, men and women, if I had a nickel for every one of them that said, I'm not photogenic. And I like to kid with them, and I look at them and I say, nobody's ever said that to me. And they say, really? And I'm like, no, everybody says it to me. My theory is that they've just never had someone take the time to take or create a good photo of them. Mm. I think everybody's got photos that people snap on their phones, and bad lighting, oh, we got 5 chins and, oh, I'm laughing, and it's like, sure, then absolutely, if all my photos looked like that, I'd be like, yeah, you can't take a good picture of me.
Yeah.
But, I talk to people about the importance of like not sitting back like this, because you see this going on, but, let's kind of lean forward and put the chin down, and then you create this nice jawline, and it's like simple stuff, but you've got to find somebody that knows how to draw this out of you and put you in your best light and your best color and your best neckline and all that. So,
and again, that's why you make the money you do, and you should.
Yeah, and I don't charge $500 like you do in Boston. I probably don't charge. Some people have said I don't charge enough, but I charge what I feel is fair for me. I'm not in it to make money. I do it. I like my job, and I have to make a living, but I don't need to drive a Mercedes.
Is that some people who say that? Would that be Don?
Would that be what?
Don?
Yeah, he's like, would you raise your prices? No. No, I don't even know if he knows what I charge. But no, I've had some people say to me, you do great work and you should charge more. And I say thank you. And I'm comfortable charging what I charge. And, I understand it's going to be too pricey for some people, but some people are going to look at it and go, oh my God, not enough.
Who ultimately owns those photos?
Oh, yes. Photographer always holds the copyright to the photo. So even though I give you your photos, I'm still the creator. Mm-hmm. So they're mine.
So what happens when they need more copies? Where do they get their copies? Where do they get their photos from? From you? Do you give them?
Yeah.
Or do you just give them a digital and say, go to Walmart or Walgreens? Or
Actually, I don't. I do give people digitals. I highly encourage them to either let me print them. I have a printer, or I have professional print labs that I use for my photography, because you go to Walmart or you go to Walgreens or something, and if their machine isn't calibrated, the color's not right, and they make a print, Ray looks green instead of nice, healthy pink, and you want to give that to a casting agent.
Right.
And people do it, and if they have great luck, that's fine. My worry is just that they're not going to get a quality product. And again, if this is your calling card and you spend all this money on getting a great shot taken, but then you cheap out on getting a nice 8x10 print made. I mean, I charge like $7 for an 8x10 print. I'll put your name on it. I'll put a little border around it, put your name on it, and then I'll make you a couple prints and I'll give you the digital copy so that you can go make, you're free to make as many copies of it as you want. And again, people say, oh, that's way too cheap. Everybody else charges blah, blah, blah. It's just what I feel is fair and right.
So before the virus, were you pretty busy?
I was steady. Yeah. Last year I was really busy between business clients, acting, some family shoots. I don't think I did a wedding last year. but yeah, I stay steady. And then this January, February was pretty good. And then I had bookings that I had to cancel. In fact, I have one Thursday that I need to reach out to. And I work sometimes with Southern New Hampshire University with the career development team. And I do headshots for some of the students who take their LinkedIn workshop so that they're provided with a professional headshot to put on their LinkedIn page. They look, professional. They're networking with potential employers and that sort of thing. So because they closed down, we had to cancel that appointment, which was scheduled for today. I think it was today. So that bums me out, because I really enjoy working with them and working with the kids and students. So yeah, it's been a little bit of a letdown, this whole, but what are you going to do? You just got to ride it out. So
I know. I never thought I'd ask a question like, what did you do before the virus? It's like The Walking Dead.
Yeah.
Is there anything about photography or headshots or sessions that we didn't get into that you want clarified?
I'll think of a million things when we get this, but I think a lot of the points that I laid in bed at 4 a.m. thinking about, I've been able to express. Yeah. I mean, being prepared, discussing wardrobe, discussing hair and makeup. And just as a point, I do work with a woman who does hair and makeup. She'll come to my studio. She'll do your hair and makeup. She stays for your session. She makes sure she'll touch you up. She'll fix hair if it gets messed when you take clothes on and off. She's wonderful.
Included in the fee?
No. So she charges, I think you've actually talked with her, Donna Kuttner.
Yes.
Yes. So Donna she's my go-to. She's been fabulous and she's really great with my clients. She just makes them feel like you're like a princess, or a king, she's like, oh, wow, you look so beautiful. And I'm like, if you don't leave this session after having Donna do your hair and makeup, you've got a serious self-esteem problem.
And let me plug her right here because I have interviewed her.
Yes, I thought you had.
She is wanted by every television studio in the state.
Right.
She has done more dignitaries and important people who have come through here. That is a catch. I don't know how you did that, but that's a great duo, you and her.
I was super lucky. Deirdre Bridge introduced a fellow acting friend. She introduced me. I put a shout out for, I need a hair and makeup person. And she said, oh, Donna. And she's great. She's great.
I am blown away by that. Wow.
Yeah. So she's my go-to and she's been super to work with and really, just a great addition to what I do. And again, just helps me get the client to that level where we can get them a really great headshot that they're happy with, that they feel good about. And I
am so glad you brought her up. That is wonderful. I mean that is that's a steal.
I'm keeping that.
All right. Well, anything else? I'm glad I asked that last question. Gee.
I know, right? I don't know. I just, I would just encourage people to look at my website. When I was kind of when I went full-time about 4.5 years ago, I did a lot of networking because everybody said, oh, you got to grow your business. You got to join networking groups. You got to do this and do that. Well, the introvert in me was like, I hate this. I hate it. And people would refer me because they had to, because I was in their group and I hated it. And this is the reason why I hated it. I hated it because they didn't care about my work or my art. They were just like, oh, so-and-so said, you do headshots. That's nice. So I would rather have, and I've had people say to me, I would rather have people find me organically. My listing on Google is very good. Thank you, Google. And I've had people say, I looked at your website. Your website was really well done. I really liked the imagery on it. And that's why I came to you. That's the person I want to work with. I don't want to work with the guy in the suit that's like, oh yeah, my friend at the bank said, you do really nice headshots.
Yeah, so I saw your card on a bulletin board at Agway somewhere.
Right. Yeah. So my dad, just to give my dad a plug, he was a Finnish carpenter. That was his career. And he did amazing work. He was slow as heck, but it was because he was so meticulous and conscientious of his work, and he never advertised ever. It was all word of mouth. People would wait. They were like, we need a bathroom done, remodeled. My dad would say, it's going to be like a year. That's okay. We'll wait.
Wow.
Because he was so good. And I said to myself, that's how I want to do it. Like, that's how I want to operate. So I don't go out and advertise. I just let Google do its thing, or people say, hey, you know, Jane, she does a good job.
Word of mouth is so important.
It is. And, you know, again, I probably could be making a lot more money getting out there and hustling, but that's just not who I am.
Yeah.
And that's not how I want to operate. So this is how I do it, and it's working for me.
Fine by me.
Yeah.
So one more time, how can people reach you?
So my website is janebuttonphotography.com. Email is jane@janebuttonphotography.com. Those are really the best two ways. And like I said, I want people to go on my site. I want them to see my work. I want them to be happy about it, or pleased or intrigued by it, and say, yeah, I like what she does. I like how people look in her images. I feel like I connect with the images she's taken, and I just want to work with her. So that's what I'm looking for.
Great. Thank you for getting out of bed.
Oh, that wasn't the hard part. The hard part was making sure the hair looked right. And,
yeah, I have the same problem.
I know. We'll have to we'll do coffee someday, Ray, and we'll share secrets. How's that?
Yeah, thanks. Yeah. Yeah, it's my Skinify software, so.
Yes, Liquify.
Yeah.
Yes.
Thank you, Jane. I appreciate the time.
So much, Ray. I'm so appreciative for you. Thank you.
Yes.